guys, it's Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms here in the mountains of North Carolina, and today I'll be showing you how to replace the tie rod ends. This happens to be a Mitsubishi Outlander, but this job is going to be basically the same for all front or all-wheel drive vehicles, and honestly, most pickup trucks are also going to be the same way. Full frame, unibody, doesn't matter. Why would you need to replace the inner or outer tie rods? In this case, I'm replacing tie rod ends. The tie rod ends are bad. There's a ball joint in those tie rod ends. They wear out and they get play in it where the tire will have side-to-side movement. It's a little hard to see, but I don't know if you can hear it. That's it. You have more than just a slightest bit of play. It's time to seriously consider replacing them. Now, this job is not terribly difficult. You remove the tire, put the vehicle on jack stands. Obviously, I have mine here on the, the Harbor Freight lift that I have. But you're going to be replacing, you're going to take off one bolt. That bolt usually is 17, 19, depending on the model. One bolt's going to come off the top. You have a wrench here, probably like an 18. You're going to have an open-end box, open-end wrench or combo wrench. You're going to pop that loose. And you have a smaller wrench that you're going to use to unthread this unit. You replace it, you put the new one back in, and you're done. But wait, there's more. You do have to have the vehicle aligned afterwards. Now, I'll show you a couple of tips in order to get this fairly close. Like right now, I don't have an alignment machine here at the little shop that I have here at the house. So I'm going to do what's called counting threads. I'm going to take a measurement beforehand as well, and then afterwards, I'm going to get it as close as I can. But to be honest with you, as soon as you can save up enough money, take it somewhere and get it aligned. Luckily, I can do the alignments at my other shop. But for right now, this is where we're at. So let me go ahead. I'll get the tools necessary. I'll show you the few steps. Now again, I'm going to be using an air tool for some of this work. Not necessary. Certainly it simplifies the job, but not necessary. Let's go. So here we are up close. I've got a light on it so you can see this a little better. But here's our inner tie rod. There is another nut or a ball joint, whatever you want to call it, back here that you'd have to remove the boot or pull the boot back in order to remove. That socket also does tend to wear, so it's something you want to check. But here's what we're replacing today. It's very hard to see on the video, but in order to turn this thing, you're going to need, in this case, a 13, but it could be a 12 or a 14. And that's going to slide over that right there. Okay, the other bolt here, or the nut here, we're going to be loosening up that is allow those adjustments to take place. On this particular model, it's going to be a 7/8. We'll loosen that up, and then we'll be able to turn it. This nut up on top, that's a self-locking nut. I'm going to use an impact gun on it, and it's a 17, but again, it could be a 19, 18, whatever. It could be any size there, depending on the make and model of the car. So before I take this one loose, I'm going to break this loose. This car is from the rust belt. It has got some years on it and some rust, so it is not uncommon for these to be rusted fairly solid. The two problems you're likely to run into there, this will not come loose without heat, or if this does come loose, it tends to turn the tie rod, the inner tie rod, with it. So you have to have this freed from this and this freed from this. Everything needs to be able to move. And we do run into issues, especially on an older car like this or in an area where there's lots of rust. There are ways, usually heat it up with a torch, you can get that stuff. Not recommended. You're weakening the steel anytime you put it into a cherry condition where it turns it bright red. But we have to do what we have to do in this industry. So I'm going to try to break that loose and by regular means. And then I'm going to take a little paint marker and I'm going to mark right here so I can count how many threads I have. I've already counted them. There are 10. So when I put this back together, this is the part we're replacing here. I'm going to tighten that thing down till it's almost at exactly the same spot. That'll keep my alignment fairly close so that I don't destroy a set of tires just taking it to a place to get the alignment done. All right? So I'm getting on the 7/8 here. The reason I'm breaking this loose first, if I took this off, this thing would just free spin. So I'm using that as a, oh wow, that was actually crazy. That came loose really easily. So that one is loose. I've turned it about half a turn, give or take. Now I'm going to attempt to see if this turns as well. If it does, holy cow, that's pretty lucky. Oh wow, that's fairly unusual, especially on something up here with all the rust. So now that I know that both these are going to move, I'll go ahead and use the impact gun that I have to take that loose. Once I have that loose, it's just a matter of reinstalling the new one. So not a huge deal. All right. Okay, so now here is a trick here. If I needed to reuse this, if I was taking this part, the outer tire or the tie rod end off to replace the inner tie rod, hitting this would be a real bad idea because what I would end up doing is damaging those fine pitch threads. So I will show you that although this will not budge loose under just normal power, if you strike it with a hammer right there, it will shock it and it will pop loose, and we should be able to unscrew it the rest of the way. Right. Had to move the hammer to give it a good strong enough blow, but hitting it right there, right on that side right there, usually pops it loose, and there it goes. Now, judging by how easily it moved, I should be able to, yep, I'm gonna hold that with my 13. I'll be able to unscrew this. Okay, there it is. Now, things that cause these ball joints to go bad that are on the end of these, you can see right there, this boot is torn long ago. That allows grease to come out of there. And of course, sand and dust and debris and salt get in there, and that helps accelerate the amount of time helps accelerate the failure of these items here. So luckily, these aren't too terribly expensive. I think I bought the pair of these for about $40 online, and we'll get them back together. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Both of those are the same in function and form. Right, so we'll go ahead and reuse that. It did come with a new locking nut. I will be using that. It looks like it might be a different size. We'll find out here shortly. Some of these might have grease fittings on the bottom. If they have a grease fitting, you do need to grease them before putting it back in service. Okay, I'm going to loosen that back up just a little bit. Go ahead and reattach that. I'm going to have to bend that in. These will be fairly stiff. That's not unusual. That's because the ball joint doesn't have any movement in it, no play. It's just fresh. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down with my impact gun. I will tighten this back up, and that is that. I'll do the same on the other side. Take the car into town on Monday and go ahead and do the alignment at the other shop. That's as simple as it gets, and you're going to pay somebody on average about $180 for the pair, sometimes more like $250 depending on the mood or the location that the shop is located in. Beautiful. And lastly, I'm going to tighten that 7/8 bolt back up. Now, you don't want to go crazy with it, but you do want to snug, because if it were to come loose, you would lose control of your steering system, and that would be super bad. That's it. Isn't that crazy? Pretty wild, isn't it? Amazing to think of how much money people pay every year to do jobs like this to me, which is super cool. I really appreciate you guys paying me all that money. But when it comes right down to it, with a set of jack stands and a basic set of hand tools, you could do this work yourself, save yourself roughly 2/3 of the cost of this job. Now, I don't expect anybody to be able to do alignments in their driveway, although there is a way to do the poor man's alignment. Maybe someday I'll cover it here. But think about it. If I paid, let's say, I think list value on those was $70 or $80 a side. I'm doing both, so there's $160. Let's say it pays probably 8/10 or an hour, so you're going to pay $100. Let's say, let's just make it easy. So now we're looking at $260. Then you're going to pay somebody $80 or $90 to do an alignment. Holy cow, we're over, we're over $350 for this job. Or now I can take it down. If I was going to pay somebody else to do it, maybe I could get an $80 alignment, four-wheel alignment, which the car probably needs anyway, even before you replace these things. Hope I've helped you save some money, or maybe even decide to do the work yourself. And then until next time, take care.
There's always something that needs a little fixing on Far Point Farms. Freedom is mighty sweet.